Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the On the Pitch podcast with my guest Matthew Pritchett here from Pembroke Hill High School. Matthew, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Bridger. How are you, man?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Just moved up here to the Kansas City area. Been practicing with the Park Hill South team and kind of getting myself into the whole system. And I'm actually going to be coaching with the KC Legends club team up here too. So I'm kind of just throwing myself into the environment here, and it's been a lot of fun. So I'm enjoying it so far. So,
welcome to Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, man. The soccer, I'm already just starting to notice that the landscape from Central Missouri up to this Kansas City area, it is a whole different beast up here. So, and I'm sure we'll get into plenty of that too. So, for the people that don't know you, Coach, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you went to high school. Tell us about your playing career.
Yeah, I grew up in St. Louis. Well, actually, half in North Carolina, half in St. Louis. My dad got transferred to St. Louis when I was in grade school. So I basically grew up in St. Louis, part of that rich soccer community there. And that's where I fell in love with the game, really. I played at Parkway South High School in St. Louis, graduated in 1986. Went and played at Missouri Southern University back when they had a men's program. They don't anymore.
Where's Missouri Southern at? Where's that at?
It's in Joplin.
Joplin, Missouri. Okay.
Transferred to the University of Missouri, played a season there. And then little known fact, John Leamy, the legend at Missouri State, restarted the program at Columbia College.
Oh, okay.
And a bunch of us transferred over from Mizzou to Columbia College. Unfortunately, John left almost immediately and took the position at then Southwest Missouri State.
Yeah.
I finished up playing there. Played a little bit of indoor for a small defunct league on the East Coast afterwards. Came back to St. Louis, played in a Budweiser league, which was great. And then got a job as a sales rep and moved to Kansas City and spent a season or two with the PDL team there, Kansas City Brass, if people remember that back in the day. And then started coaching full time.
Yeah. So how'd you get in? So whenever you realized that your playing days were over and you wanted to get into coaching, how did you start at Pembroke Hill, or where did your coaching career kind of start?
Actually, I started a club with a couple friends of mine. We had probably, I want to say close to 45 teams between the three of us. We weren't all coaching all of them, but we were coaching at least 5 teams apiece.
Oh, wow.
Mark Sheldon, who is now the assistant at UMKC, was the head girls coach at Shawnee Mission West. He brought me in as an assistant. That's kind of where I started my high school coaching career. As a matter of fact, my goalkeeper at the time there, I was a goalkeeper coach as well. She's now the head coach at Shawnee Mission West. She had a great career at KU. I was kind of doing that part-time and then coaching club teams. And then one of the kids that played for me went to Pembroke, and his dad had mentioned, hey, the coaching position's open there. Did you ever think about doing high school coaching full-time? And to be fair, I was not thinking that. I was thinking club. I was going to jump. I had spent a little time coaching at the college level. Thought I'd get back into that. Young, no kids at the time. So it was still chasing that dream a little bit. And it was a funny story. I went and applied for the position, and the day after I applied and interviewed, the athletic director resigned and left. So I thought, well, I'm not going to get that job.
Right.
About 2 weeks later, the principal called and said, hey, are you still interested? And what about teaching? And I said, yeah, I've never taught before outside of coaching. Luckily it's a private school. I wasn't required to have a teaching certificate to do it. So they hired me as an elementary school PE teacher and the boys and girls head soccer coach. And that was starting my 27th season.
Wow.
This August.
So I was going to ask you, what year was that when you officially took over at Pembroke Hill?
The first year was 99.
Okay.
2000. So I guess it'd be 26 year. Now I think about 26 year.
Wow.
Cool. So yeah, 99, 2000. I'm now teaching kids I coached.
That's awesome.
I still say the day I'm coaching kids from kids I coached, it'd probably be a time to exit stage left, but we'll see. I always promise myself when it looks like it feels more like a job than fun, I'd be out, and I still enjoy it. So
yeah. So you've been coaching you're 26 years now, coaching both programs, or did you ever take a hiatus or anything, or has it been
no,
26
I've
years
always had
straight?
both programs.
Wow.
I enjoy doing both. It's a different type of coaching for each.
Yeah. So obviously you grew up a public school kid, up there in St. Louis. Just to go back real quick, tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in that St. Louis area and playing high school there. Because obviously you said 80s, I think it was, whenever you said
80s.
you graduated, that was obviously like the big reign of like Vianney, CBC, DeSmit, SLU. They were just the powerhouses of everybody. What was it like being a little public school, during that time?
Well, we weren't a little public school. We
Well,
were a
I mean, you know what I mean.
But
Yeah.
yeah, we lost to Vianney every year in the playoffs. My junior year was probably our best team that we had, and we lost to them 2-1 in overtime. It was a great game. It was a different mentality back then because it was never a feeling of they cheated or were better. For us, it was just we just needed to be better to compete with them.
Yeah.
As it is now, I mean, a lot of those guys that went to Vianney, I played club soccer with, so I knew them. They were friends of mine. And it's just a different thought process then. So it's CBC, DeSmet, all those teams were very, very good. SLU. We even had a couple small private schools back then. I'm not even sure if they're in existence anymore. That had decent players as well. So it was fun. I mean, I really look back on those days, and there was a lot of camaraderie. We all knew each other. It was a smaller, tight knit community. And it's not as big as it is now. Where these kids go to clubs, and they play with players that aren't really from their community. And back then, we were all kind of lived in the same place. We were all close to each other. We weren't spread out throughout the city. So it's kind of the club you played for. You started off in the recreational, and then you worked your way up through the parish and ended up on the same club teams together. So
little CYC league or little Catholic leagues that they used to have up there was like the big one. Everyone kind of went to the same churches and played for the same teams and did all that. So
and the old stuff about recruiting, that happened. I mean, I remember my mom saying, "Matt, why is there a priest on our front porch?" When I was in 8th grade, I was like, I don't know. That's a great question. But as it turned out, he was representing one of the Catholic schools and wanted me to go to school there.
Wow. It's kind of hard to tell a priest no.
Yeah. Well, after you go through your mental Rolodex of what did I do to prompt a priest showing up?
Mom and dad's like, what did you do?
Yeah, exactly. But so I guess in that regards, I mean, not a lot of recruiting needed to take place. I mean, we all knew that back then it was more a choice of, do I want to go to a religious school, or do I just want to go to a public high school with my buddies? And it's all personal choice at that point.
Yeah. Did you grow up Catholic? Are you Catholic?
No, not even Catholic. I grew up Episcopalian. That's what made it even more baffling. That
they were really freaking out why there was a priest.
Yeah, no, I wasn't even Catholic. I mean, I played with all those guys. I mean, no, not at all.
Man, parents must have been freaking out. Oh, that's awesome. So obviously, like you went and played college, and you played a little. So you said like on the East Coast, was it pro indoor, or was it like the MASL?
They called it pro indoor. They paid us. I don't recall ever seeing a professional level of anything. I honestly spent 4 months there, and the team folded, and I went home, and it was awful. It was a terrible decision. There was pockets of these, they called them professional indoor leagues all over the country. And they'd go out and recruit schmucks like me who weren't really paying attention or didn't know any better. We just wanted to play. Yeah. And I couldn't even tell you what the league was named. That's how poorly run. I lived in an apartment with a dude from Mississippi. That wasn't an apartment. It was something that the owner built in a warehouse he owned in the back corner.
Oh my gosh.
It was But when you're 22 years old, 21 years old, I mean,
You just wanted to play.
we thought we were the coolest thing since sliced bread, and
Yeah.
as it turned out, we were the sliced bread. So
Gosh.
came home, took a job that moved me to Kansas City. I spent, like I said, a little while playing in the PDL for a local team here. Enjoyed that. And then one day I realized I don't want to put a tie on anymore and go to work. I like coaching.
Mhm.
And God bless my wife. She supported me in that decision.
Yeah.
It was literally a week to the day our first daughter was born. I quit a full-time job that had a good salary and great benefits to go coach full-time.
Wow. So obviously, like, you've been through, you've coached now for 26 years, and that's just crazy to hear. Like, obviously, I literally turned 31 next week. I'm not trying to age you or anything there, but just the longevity of what you've done, in the high school game is just absolutely crazy to me. For one, just to do it that long, to do anything that long for 26 years is just crazy. But what is some of the biggest changes that you've seen from, year one to now 26 years later? What are some of the big changes that you've seen in the game?
Well, obviously, club soccer has become a much bigger role in the
Mm-hmm.
players' lives, which is fine. It's we always advocate for playing, right? We want the kids playing, um, and that's a whole nother podcast conversation. My
Yeah.
opinions on club and but the biggest change is motivation from the players. What's motivating them to play?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's I never want to blame a player for the way they approach things, because it's just changes year to year. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
important as a coach that you recognize the biggest thing is what's motivating them.
Mm-hmm.
What motivated them 15 years ago is not the same as what motivates them now. Um, and the playing for the patch on the chest is I feel it's important, but I will say I don't feel that they think the same way as I do now.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean it's gone; it's just changed. I think
Mm-hmm.
now they're as engaged playing for each other,
Mm-hmm.
um, regardless of what the patch is on their chest. Um, but it's so their motivations changed slightly. It's still there. It's the same
Mm-hmm.
type of motivation. It's just not for the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's lost. I mean, we still talk about it a lot. Um, but you talk about longevity, in my opinion, and somebody might disagree with me, that the longevity comes from recognizing you've got to change with the game and the players you're coaching.
Mm-hmm. You gotta adapt or die, basically, is them. Yeah.
100%. It's my 80s one-liner movie references. Heck, my assistant coaches don't know what I'm talking about now. So it's I used to be able to rip off a one line from a movie or quote a movie and get a laugh out of all of them, and now they look at me like, what are you saying? Are you speaking
Yeah.
tongues? So it's important that I change with them.
Yeah.
Try to, at least. I mean, I still keep my same standards. I still keep the same processes, but it's recognizing motivations of the players that's key.
Yeah.
Plus, it doesn't hurt hiring young coaches on your staff to help keep that relationship, because
Yeah.
I don't relate like I used to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last piece that I've always prided myself on this is they all know I care
Yeah.
about them as people and as players. And I care about what I do. I respect what I do, and I respect who I do it for. And I show that to them all the time. And I think that's the biggest piece, is making sure that they know that I care about them.
Yeah. So just to go a little bit on that, like what's some of the ways that you do that? Is it giving recognition, or is it making posts? Like what is kind of one, if you had to pick like one little way that you show them that you care, or that you've got their back, what's something that you kind of do to kind of bridge that gap with the newer generation to show them that?
Well, this piece hasn't changed. Conversations, talking to them, asking them questions. Um, what did you do this weekend? Just things
Mm-hmm.
like that, and showing real interest in what they're interested in.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that I try to do every year is I have them write down one thing that they wish I knew about them.
Okay.
It could be soccer related.
Mm-hmm.
can't, it could also not be soccer related, just to give me some insight as to who they are.
Yeah.
I make it very clear it's between you and I. I don't share it with the other coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I start every single practice where I talk to every single one of them individually and ask them how their day was. And I'm sincere about that. Tell me about it. You had a bad day. What happened? Anything I can do to help?
Mm-hmm.
I want our environment to be a safe place where they can put all that aside and just focus on playing, getting better, having fun. It's one piece that I feel like's been lost with the advent of all the high-powered club activities is to the fun of playing the game. I see a lot of kids quitting because they just flat out don't enjoy it anymore.
Well, I see a lot of like the kids that go to club, like they're almost treated like cattle. Like they're just treated as like a number whenever they're going to these club teams, because all it takes is like a couple of bad games and then they're bringing some other kid up from the U14s or U16s to replace you because it's so cutthroat there. Whereas high school, it truly, and you obviously Pembroke Hill doesn't have the biggest enrollment, so it's a smaller school, so it's more of a tight knit community. And I mean, I know this is kind of like a cliche to say, but like a family. Do you kind of try and have that same kind of like with what you're doing? It's almost like you're trying to build that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a lot of these kids go to school from 2 years old up through the graduate. I mean, we have a large, we call them lifers at our school. Like all three of my children were lifers there because my oldest started when I started, and my youngest will graduate this year. She's going into her senior year, and all of them have gone to school there, and that's the only place they've gone to school.
Yeah.
So it's almost brothers and sisters already because they've known each other for so long.
Yeah.
The family environment's great. I mean, we talk about that a lot. But the bigger issue is just getting deeper into what does it mean to be part of that. I feel like we spend a lot of time with kids talking about being leaders, but we don't really explain to them what that means.
Yeah.
Or more importantly, let them explore what that means to them.
Yeah.
What it means to you and I as coaches, right, could be something different to them. So I think it's more an issue of not really creating a family atmosphere, is creating a player-led culture where they decide what's important, what's not important. I help guide them through that process, but they have to take ownership of it. And they have to be proud of it. The one thing, my biggest accomplishment is my attachment to my alumni and how engaged they are still to the program, and how excited they are to be involved. And I still, to this day, get texts or emails from guys, hey, I watched the game last night on stream. Boys look good, and these are guys that graduated in 2004, 5, still engaged in the program. Because they left something they were proud of, and they like to see that it's still going strong, and it's something they could continue to be proud of. So that's really more the issue, not the issue. The goal is I want them to be a family within, but I want them to realize that the extended family is massive. And you're playing for them as well as each other, and that pride in the program specifically.
Yeah, I mean, how big? What is the enrollment of Pembroke Hill? Because it's smaller for a private school, right?
Roughly 400 in the high school.
Okay, yeah,
and it's almost exactly 50-50 boys and girls. So
nice.
you're talking 200 boys, and you're splitting that with a football program, cross country.
Do you guys have lacrosse too?
We have lacrosse. Luckily, that's a spring sport,
Ooh,
but I do compete with that with the girls.
Is lacrosse what all the sports do you have? Because you have a lot of the sports that most schools around here don't have, but because is it because they're able to travel? There's more teams, maybe? Like, what are some of the sports extra that you guys have?
Full transparency, you have schools like ours will always be good at golf, tennis, and now lacrosse is becoming that next, for lack of a better term, country club sport. And
it's not cheap to play. There's a lot of equipment.
I think a lot of kids, I think that's going to be not their downfall, but it's going to temper the growth of it a little bit because it is constant travel and the equipment's not cheap. But it's here to stay. There's no question about that, especially in the private school area. We have field hockey which in Kansas City, I think there's only one, maybe two other schools that have field hockey.
Wow.
For a long time, it was just one other school. But it's interesting because field hockey is huge in St. Louis.
Oh, okay.
Almost all the schools have field hockey in St. Louis, which is interesting. So we're definitely a school. We want kids to have opportunities to explore as many things as they can.
Mm-hmm.
I think the cooler part is getting to go see my kids. When I say my kids, my players perform in a school musical.
Yeah.
Go to a debate tournament and do well. Just getting to just get them to see out off the field doing different things.
Yeah.
There's not a kid that's going to graduate from our school that did not experience multiple things,
multiple avenues for them to go into
express
stuff.
themselves,
Yeah.
to investigate. My own daughter loves doing the musical, and she's hilarious. I remember when I went to high school, there's no way you'd catch any of us on the team in the drama department for any other reason to get extra credit for a class to go see a school play.
Yeah.
And that's our school. And I talking to other coaches, I think that's more of a universal thing. These kids are feeling more and more comfortable to go out and do different things, which I love.
Yeah.
I love seeing them do different things.
Yeah, we really emphasized, supporting the other guys or girls on the team by going to that stuff. Go to the play, go to the musical, go to the band concert, go see the marching band, go see the football team. Yeah, but if we had a boy on the soccer team who was on the drum line, it's like, go cheer for Corbin doing his freaking drum stuff. It's awesome. Like, go. And then you start to see that, like, that builds like a bond with those guys because you're supporting them in other things besides the thing you all do together. So, I mean, especially when you have a smaller community, kind of like Pembroke Hill, 400 kids, it's a tight knit community. Everyone's going to know everybody. Everyone's going to have their own things. And it's kind of like a small school, like a lot of times those smaller schools, if you're getting down like in rural Missouri or whatever, where it's 400 kids in the entire K through 12. So everybody knows everybody. It's all tight knit. Everybody does everything too. So do you get a lot of kids where they're multi-sport athletes at Pembroke?
It's funny you mentioned that. We were I had a conversation with a coach recently about that, and it's been a long time. I mean, and it's for a lot of reasons. I mean, the big reasons is with the advent of, first the multiplier, and now the success factor. The only way we can compete is if I'm fielding a team of players who play year round. And sadly, what that's done is it's eliminated an athlete who's a multi-sport athlete having an impact on your varsity team.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've had a kid that plays multiple sports, but is impactful for my varsity program. And it's sad because I grew up playing everything that, had a ball. I didn't really focus on soccer specifically until I was like in 7th or 8th grade.
Yeah.
And even then I still played baseball. It was, but I was thinking back on when was the last kid I had who played 3 sports in a school year actually have significant impact on my varsity team, and it's been a while.
Yeah. So, because obviously, like, this is the main gist of why I brought you in here. This is the main topic I wanted to talk about. Is like everybody still sees private schools as the boogeyman. Like, you guys are always going to be, no matter what field you step on, no matter who you're playing, people are always going to see the private school as, oh, they're going to win because they're the private school. They've got all the resources and all the money and all of this stuff, and they're the boogeyman. But then a lot of people don't realize that private schools struggle just as much as public schools do, and there's issues that you have to deal with. Like you just said, it's a smaller private school like you're dealing with. You're not getting multi-sport athletes. You're having to get kids who are, have to go year round just to compete. Well, you don't have as many kids to pick from, just like a smaller public school. So obviously you've been doing this for 26 years. How do you go about dealing with some of the issues that you have? And then of course, like, what are some of the struggles that you have as a private school, even a school like Pembroke Hill? Like, what are some of the struggles that you go through?
Yeah. Being a public school kid, I definitely see it and understand it. There is some inherent advantages. The biggest one being is, we can pick and choose who comes to our school, right? I mean, we don't have to take everybody. Now, having said that, with the advent of open enrollment, where with a lot of big public schools are doing now, that kind of balances the field a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
well, that's getting exploited all the time too. I mean,
100%.
And people always want to say that the private school, oh, they're recruiting, they're doing this, and this. Really, there's a guy who lives in like or there's a kid who lives in Independence and he plays for Liberty North. Like that's happening all over the place.
Yeah,
so
it
they're
is.
basically taking what they think or thought the private schools were doing and just making it legal. That's what they're doing now for public schools. So
now, having said all that, I don't, because you just look across the state line from us, and Bishop Miege basically gets state championships mailed to him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, part of that is the state's inability to recognize they probably need to add a class,
or even do a championship factor or something
of that nature. And to be fair, I call our current championship factor the punishment factor. I feel like that 6-year window is ridiculously long.
It is ridiculous. Yeah. We've been in those meetings. You and I literally have been, yeah.
But I also agree. I see it more as an urban rural separation more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Anymore, a lot of the public schools are getting these high level club players coming to their schools.
Mm-hmm.
And I also see it as a matter of coaching. I mean, not that they're bad coaches, but I also know a lot of coaches that once the season ends, they're done and they don't think about it again until the start of the next season.
Mm-hmm.
And I get upset and offended when somebody just throws the private school moniker on there and not realize how hard I work at my program and at my craft.
Mm-hmm.
And how often I'm constantly learning and getting better and trying to do more things and stay on top of current trends and spend a lot of time trying to understand my players and their motivations. And it's a year-round job. It's not just in season. And the biggest thing to me is the mentality. I never blamed private schools for being better. It was more about if we need to get better if we want to compete with them. Now, again, there's going to be inherent advantages, and the other one is the kids that go to my school can afford to pay to play high-level club soccer. So is that a fault of the private school, or is that a fault of the club soccer and the pay-for-play model?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that it only speaking of soccer specifically, my kids can afford to go play for the bigger clubs and travel and do all that stuff and get the high quality coaching. The reality is it shouldn't be set up that way. This is why we struggle as a national team. This is why we struggle.
Yep.
And to have 15 different platforms to play for is ridiculous. I mean, first time I've ever heard say, hey, we didn't qualify for regionals over there, but we qualified for regionals in this platform. I'm like, what? I don't understand that. So I don't feel like, and again, speaking specifically for soccer, I don't feel like the advantages of private schools are as vast as people make them out to be.
Yeah.
Now, where I'm not dealing with kids that are academically ineligible or truant, because that's just not the type of kids we have at our school. I do have to navigate debate tournaments. I do have to navigate I haven't slept in 2 days because I've been studying, those types of things. I mean, the longer I do this, the more I realize everybody has problems. They're just all different.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with a coach that had a group of kids that he didn't trust going on overnight trips with. I've never had that issue, but I've had issues on overnight trips of other things. I mean,
we all have. Yeah. It doesn't matter if your kid, it doesn't matter if your kid's parents have all the money in the world or they're dead broke. You're gonna have problems in your life. And I think a lot of the times kids in general, they automatically see private school and they think that the kid's life is perfect and they don't have issues. When you see, I've noticed this a lot with like articles that I've seen and stuff. You see a lot, and I don't know if this is something you deal with and you don't have to, make comment on it. I see a lot of like bigger school or private school kids dealing with drugs, like addiction issues, because of it's so tough academically to deal with like certain schools. Like I don't know what Pembroke Hill's academics are, but you'll get kids who get hopped up on Adderall or even do, whatever they need to do to meet the academic standards. And that that can have an effect on them. But you might see this kid as, oh, mommy and daddy are lawyers and they've got all the money in the world. His life's perfect. But really, you don't know what that kid's going through, and you don't know what any of the kids are going through. Some kids in public school, they don't eat. They don't get a dinner, every night like some of the kids that you might have. But that doesn't mean their issues aren't valid. Doesn't mean those kids aren't. They're kids. Kids are kids. They're going to have issues, whether they're not the same issues that you have or whatever, but they're always dealing with something. And that's something I think that what you're doing with building those connections and talking to kids and actually getting to know them and building those relationships, you're going to help them later on if there is an issue like that. Like, they can feel safe to come to you and communicate that with those issues. And that's just, people just don't understand what other people are going through. And I think a lot of times, again, they see you as the boogeyman because you're big, rich private school. They think that you have no issues, but I'm sure there's plenty of times where you've had issues and all of that stuff you've had to deal with. So
it's nonstop. I mean, I've done this at a lot of different levels, club,
mm-hmm.
College, ODP. There's always issues. For me, it's recognizing potential issues and if any advice I could ever give a young coach is you cannot communicate enough.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that everybody understands what's going on, because the more you can weed out opportunity for speculation and gossip, the better off you're going to be in the end. And then the other piece is just be honest. You don't have to be a jerk, right? You don't have to be a dick to be honest. You could just be honest. Hey, this is my opinion. And make it clear that this is your opinion. And then, because when you lie and paint yourself in a corner, the outcome is far worse.
You'll get caught. You'll get caught if you're lying or BSing kid. They'll find out sooner or lader. It may not be right at the moment, but they'll find out sooner or later that you're BSing or you're lying or you don't know what you're doing or something like that. Have you ever had an issue, kind of like, obviously in your earlier years, you say that now you you communicate as much as you now. Was there ever an issue that happened when you were a younger coach that made you become now better at that kind of stuff? Was there like a situation that happened?
I don't know if we have that kind of free time. I would love to say I was blessed with all this wisdom, but a lot of it is just learning the hard way. The one thing I did pride myself on is I listened to my mentors, and older coaches have been doing it for a long time. And I really took to heart what they had to say. The first thing I learned was to never have conversations about playing time with parents.
Okay.
And I was brave enough to make that announcement at my very first parent meeting. And I've made that announcement at every parent meeting since. And then my out is always, look, we're probably not going to agree, and it's not going to end well. The conversation will not be productive. Now, having said that, I followed up with, I will have that conversation with your son or daughter all day long. I just will not have it with a parent. And out of my whole time coaching high school, I've only had one parent push me on that. And like I said, it ruined a relationship with that family.
Yeah. And what sucks too is, like, a lot of times when a parent does that and they skip the player talking to you and they just go over your head and go straight to you, you may not know that the player is upset. You may have not even had a conversation with that player yet. And what happens now is when that parent interjects and they go over their kid's head and start talking about it, subliminally, even though we all say that it doesn't affect the relationship with the kid, it does. If you've got a parent that is on your butt about this, and this, and it's just making you mad, pissing you off, you try your hardest not to take it out on the kid, but subliminally there's something like every decision you make now with that child, that there's going to be a reaction from a parent. So now it's either you're giving them mercy minutes just to make the parent happy, or you're taking it out on the parents by taking it out on him. Even if you don't, we all coaches, we say we don't want to do that. We don't do that. But parents do that. And I don't think they realize that it does have an effect on between you and the child as well, especially if they go over your head. If the kid comes to me and is like, why am I not playing? And we have a conversation, 9 times out of 10, it's a great conversation. And it's positive, and the kid learns, and we build a stronger bond. But if you skip us, you go to an AD or you go to an alumni or you talk on Facebook or whatever, it never ends good. It
No,
never ends good. And
never.
it
It's
hurts the
not a good
kid.
conversation.
And it
That's
hurts the
why
kid.
I incorporated a chain of command in my team handbook. That is, I even had to call my AD on it a couple times.
Yeah.
Hey, I got this phone call from a parent, and let me stop you there. Did you have them reach out to me? Well, no, I wanted it. No, my chain of command. They got to come to me first.
Love that.
And you have to stick with it. Those are things that you either learn and pay attention to. Most ADs are really good at supporting their coaches. That I've learned over the years. At a private school, it's a little different animal. Sometimes you have donors or parents that put a lot of volunteer time into school and think that it buys them a little bit more bandwidth in helping shape decisions. It's important that you have administrators in place that appreciate the effort, but everybody's the same when it comes to this. And have that conversation with your administrator. Hey, these are my expectations of you as my boss.
Yeah.
And this is what I need from you as my boss to support me in what I want to do. And
that
I was
might be
also blessed with a really strong, really good athletic director when I started coaching.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, you being there for so long, it's also a little bit easier for you to have that rapport and connection with your administration, because maybe a new AD comes in who's new to the program. They look to you for support because you've been there so long with the program and you're more well known and things like that. So that helps. But what could you say about like a new coach? What's something they could set the tone to help build that relationship early, like when you first started? You said you inherited a good AD, so what was that
actually,
like?
we got hired at the exact same time because remember I said the AD that was there before resigned and left right after I interviewed.
Yeah.
But he had a lot of experience. He had come from he had actually was at Barstow, another small private school for a little while.
Yeah, I know them.
And then went to a big public school. Had coached. I mean, he had been through several opportunities, and he understood, and he was really good at making all of us as coaches understand is I'm here for the entire athletic department. And I need you to be here for the entire athletic department. So he created a team within a team. All the coaches got along. We respected each other. We helped each other out. So creating those relationships with for a young coach with other coaches at other schools. There's very few coaches I can think back over the year, high school coaches that I just didn't like. There's very few of those. And I'm sure I was one when I was younger. I was vocal on the sideline. I did antics. I did, I was a young coach. But what I came to realize over the years is what I can learn from every single person that I coach against. They may not be great coaches or they may not be great soccer coaches. I also know there's plenty of coaches out there that are amazing coaches that just can coach anything you put in front of them. And you can learn from all of them. I mean, always just look to learn. I mean, coaching is the ultimate thieving community, right? We all steal from each other and tweak it, change it. And, but approaching that across the board, not just with the X's and O's, but with my motto I have at Pembroke Hill is tradition never graduates. Well, I stole that from a softball coach that I heard give an interview years ago. I don't even know what school he was from or anything, but I love the line. So I stole it and I made it mine. So, I'll be the first to admit that I have few original thoughts. Most of them were stolen or they're quotes from a movie. That's pretty much my entire persona. But I can learn from everybody, young, old, whether I respect them as an actual X's and O coach or not. Be open to that constantly because the kids come and go. We're the only constant. You got to create those relationships within the coaching community because there's nothing better than sitting down at a table and having beers with a bunch of coaches and just telling stories and talking. And because we all get it. We all understand it. We all know, we all have our problems. They're different, but the same. And those are the people that you're going to have lifelong relationships with. Your kids are great, and we love them, and we want to jump on a grenade for all of them. But at the end of the day, they come and go.
Mm-hmm.
My coaching mentor told me once, and it took me a long time for me to wrap my head around it. He said, Matt, no matter what you do or say, they will never care as much as you.
Very
and my
true.
first thought was, oh, that's not true. I've had this player, this player, this player. But if you really sit down and think about it,
absolutely,
they went home, probably did their homework and went to bed.
Played some Xbox.
Went home and watched film and, just agonized over why this didn't go well or why,
the amount of times I've come home freaking pissed off because of a loss or even a win that we just didn't play very well. I was like, it grinds in my gears, and the kids probably going home. Mom and dad got them ice cream on the way there. They go. We've
all been on that bus ride home after a bad loss and sat in the front and listen to those guys joke and goof around in the back, and you're
makes you want to punch a window.
I know, but he's right. At the end of the day, and it's not a bad thing. It's just the nature of the setup.
I talked to Chris White the other day, and he literally talked about how kind of the same thing. They're not going to care as much as you do. You're going to be an emotional wreck through games, but the only thing that you can do is to try and make it a great environment and fun for them. Because at the end of the day, you can only control the controllables. You're going to play against teams that are way better than you. You're going to have good games. You're going to have bad games. You're going to have kids who don't give a shit. You're going to have kids who love it, and it's their only thing. And so you've got to learn to just make it a fun environment no matter what you're going through. So he just won state with freaking Ellsbury Class 1 girls, and his literally whole mantra was just like, have fun.
Have fun. And we talk about there's two types of failures, and there's good fails and bad fails. And it's quite simply this: bad fails are anything you can control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good fails are everything else.
Yeah. And there's always going to be a better team. There's always going to be a better player that beats you, or a better team, or there's even going to be teams that are worse than you that are going to get a win against you, because that's just life. And what we're truly doing is building life lessons in the form of kicking a ball in a net.
Yeah. We're building resilience is what it comes down to. And a lot of people have read it. That book, A Gift of Failure, really should be a Bible for all parents whose kids play athletics.
I'm going to have to add that to my Amazon list of books I need to buy. I've got like 20 on there.
It really is. Yeah. It's called The Gift of Failure. There's two books that I recommend to every coach and parent. That's one. And the other one, and I knew as soon as I mentioned it, I was going to forget the name of it. But I will send it to you. I actually did a book group with a bunch of coaches through that book. It'll pop into my head shortly, and I'll blurt it out at some point. Every Moment Matters.
Every Moment Matters. Okay.
Yeah. It's a great book.
The Gift of Failure and Every Moment Matters. I'll have to add those to my list. So,
but growth doesn't happen without failure, and parents are the first ones to forget that.
Yeah.
Clearing the path and cushioning the path are two different things.
Yeah, I mean, how do we build muscle in our own physical bodies is you have to break down what's already there for it to heal and build back up. So you literally need to fail. You need to break down to get better at something.
Yeah, failure is the only place growth happens.
Yeah.
And saying it's one thing, but making it part of your DNA is another. I saw an interesting article recently about high-level athletes and nerves, and they have trained their brain into recognizing big moments as opportunities and being excited about it, as opposed to being nervous about failing.
Yeah, I think this generation of kids, they're so scared of failure that they lose the fun in even competing, because they just don't want to make a mistake. They don't. And you see that in the way that some of them play. You can tell the difference between a kid who's out there just to have fun and embracing the moment, and a kid who just doesn't want to mess up. Yeah. And they're two different things. And you can spot that kid out so easy.
Yeah. It's the same thing when freshmen come into your program. Tell them, you're not freshmen here. You're soccer players. And that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
Be a soccer player. Don't be a freshman. Be a soccer player. And the other piece that they miss out on is be useful to your team.
Mhm.
One of the things I've been blessed with in my stupidity in my life is I've got a lot of great stories, and very few of them are moments when I made the right choice early on.
Okay.
Uh, but I went out for the baseball team my freshman year in high school, and the coach said, "Go to your position," and nobody went to right field. So I went to right field.
That's
I
the
never
best
played
position in the whole
outfield.
game. You get to watch the game.
I never played outfield in my life. I didn't have the arm to play in the outfield, uh, but I made the team. I didn't get cut. It was a big high school, big public high school, and a lot of my buddies got cut. Did I play much my freshman year? No, I was the courtesy runner for the catcher, uh, but I made the team because I was useful.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest advice to any kid going out for high school their first year, or when they've leaving
In
high school
college.
going to
Yeah.
play in college. I mean, how many guys have you sent off to play in college didn't even play close to the same position they played for you?
Yeah.
Be
I mean,
useful.
that happens all the time.
Yeah, 100%. Unless you're a goalkeeper or an
Mhm.
unbelievable center back or goal scorer, you're probably not going to play in the spot you played. So
I
be
told this one of
useful.
my kiddos the other day. One of my players who went up to go play junior college. He was a striker, and all of a sudden he was playing games at right back.
Yeah.
I said, you got to play, dude. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're used to scoring goals, cool, but you got to be on the field while there's 6 other guys on the bench.
Yeah.
Like, embrace it, no
Yeah,
matter
here's your
where they
choice.
put you.
You want to play there? Or do you want to sit on the bench, or possibly not even dress?
Yeah,
I mean, be useful.
yeah,
And that goes towards, my biggest thing is embracing your role, being successful in your role, and then trusting that everybody on your team is going to fulfill their role.
yeah.
It goes the other way when I've had a lot of good players who have spent 70 of the 80 minutes trying to do 3 or 4 people's jobs, and we're down
Mhm.
6-0 because you're never where I need you to be.
Yeah,
So, it's all part and parcel, but it's how you approach it with your kids.
Mhm.
I'm not afraid to sacrifice field time for classroom time. Culture is anymore 80% of everything you do,
yeah,
with your program, with your teams, and building that culture that is positive, inclusive, goal oriented, and resilient is far
Mhm.
more important than whether we can do a 4v2 rondo out on a field.
Yeah,
Um, you've got to have players. I mean, you think about when you played, one of the best teams I ever played for, we had nobody on our team that was an all-star,
Mhm.
that was a all-American player. We made it all the way to the regional finals with a dad coaching us. We didn't even have a real coach. It just was, but we all respected each other, and we were a team together.
Yeah,
And it's everybody has a role on a team. Everybody.
yeah,
And it's respecting each other's role, excelling in your role, being willing to change roles if needed. Um, but every role is understanding has the same importance. I
yeah,
mean, your stud guy that puts the ball in the back of the net, well, he's not getting that ball without the role players getting it to him.
yeah.
And that's the hard part with kids, is getting them to understand every single person's role on this team is important. It has equal importance as everybody else.
Yeah, I think Abby Wambach had like a great line. She said, "I never scored a goal without receiving a pass from someone else."
Yeah, and that's just spot on.
Yeah,
Spot on. Never won a game without a goalkeeper keeping the ball out of the back of the net, right? I mean,
exactly. Yeah,
everybody has a role and is embracing those roles, but more importantly, respecting everybody's role on the team. Guys, even this, I'm helping coach a USL2 team. These guys are all high-level college players on
Mhm.
the verge of turning pro, a lot of them, and expressing that role mentality to all of them has been important to their success this year.
Yeah,
Do your job is our mantra. Do your job. Have faith that your teammates are going to do their job, and we're going to be fine. And they've really bought into it.
wow. Well, Coach, that was awesome. That was
I enjoyed it, man.
great, man. Thank you so much for doing this, and thank you for tagging along and giving me a little bit of moment of your time to just talk shop. Is there anything you need to plug that you want to put out there? Like maybe one minute. I want you to tell if let's say I'm a brand new coach or someone who's a brand new coach. They're about to start their first year as a head high school coach. What's 1 minute of advice you can give them right now?
Get involved, be part of the community, inside and outside your school. Go coach recreational soccer, go coach a club team, but get involved with the sport. Where we fail is when coaches start to just worry about their own little patch of the grass and don't think that there's a bigger community out there. Get involved with your coaches association, get involved in a group. United Soccer Coaches have plenty of groups you can get involved with. But where we hurt the kids the most is when we're not involved outside of what we're doing in our own program. Mm-hmm. You don't get paid a lot to coach. You get paid even less to volunteer, but that's what makes it go. So get involved. Coaches Association is the best way to do it. But get out there and be part of the community. Not just your community, the big community, the wider community. The more people we have out there doing that, the stronger we'll be, and the better the kids are going to get more balanced coaching and a more balanced life, and they're going to start to enjoy the game again.
Awesome. Well, that was great, man. Again, thank you so much for tagging along and doing this. This was a lot of fun. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, Bridger, I loved it, man. I love talking to you. I'm excited that you're here in Kansas City, and good luck at Park Hill South with the boys. Are you coaching the girls too, or just the boys?
They didn't have an opening yet, but I think there might be something that opens up here pretty soon. So if they've got an opening in the girls, I'll tag along with that as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to get together now that you're in town and go grab a cold one and continue solving the world's soccer problems, or at least the United States soccer problems.
Hey, I'm trying one podcast at a time.
You do good work, man. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Hey, I'll see ya.
Take off. See you, buddy.